Hey guys, in today's video I will be talking about the 2020 Atlantic hurricane season, for where we are at this point, and really I want to talk about when we could really most likely or potentially see our first hurricane of the season. And I mean that even though right now we're in a pattern that is really holding back all of the tropical activity in the Atlantic. That honestly will likely change quite soon, especially since we're now, today's July 18th, and it seems that really once we get past July 20th, and especially as we get towards August 1st, once we get into August, the pattern will really change to where we will likely start to see tropical activity really ramp up, especially since um, our 3.4 Enzo region is now has dropped honestly quite significantly just within the last week or so, to back where now it's going back negative, and it's at negative 0.012 degrees Celsius, and it was honestly like really climbing ever since towards around mid-June. So that's a good sign, honestly, that we're starting to see that. If we look at what the Nino 3 region is at right now, it's also negative. It's at negative 0.627 degrees Celsius. So that's negative as well. So that's a good sign. And then the Nino 4 region it's positive. It's at positive 0.329. Now, of course, like not all of the ENSO regions are negative, but that'll likely start to try to change a good bit. Now, what's interesting now, of course, we really use the Nino 3.4 region for really trying to figure out if we're heading more towards a La Nina or El Nino, or all of that. But we don't really use all the other Nino regions, like the 1+2 region, just the 3 region or the 4 region. But the Nino 1+2 region right now is actually very cold. It's at negative 1.835, I believe that says, degrees Celsius. So it's very cold there. And of course, if we were using this region instead of the 3.4 region to determine if we're in a La Nina or a El Nino or just in a neutral, we would be in a extremely strong La Nina by this point already. But that's not how that goes. But let's look at the really the sea surface temperatures for really the whole world. And the Enzo region is this area right in here in the Eastern Pacific there, where my mouse arrow is. Off this northwestern South America coast, it's generally cooler than average here, but then it gets more towards neutral here since it's mixing in towards with the more warmer than average temperatures, sea surface temperatures. So that's why we're, at least now we're back towards more of perfectly neutral. But before, like really just a week ago, we were more warmer than average, a lot warmer than average. Now, if we look at the North Atlantic, just look at the North Atlantic entire basin. Let's zoom this out so you guys can see it better. There we go. You can see that the MDR region is still continuing to warm up pretty significantly. This warmth is continuing to expand eastward and will most likely try to take up this generally whole area that as of right now is only at 25 degrees Celsius. That's more towards like the mid 70 degrees Fahrenheit, I believe. But as you can see, though, I mean, a lot of the MDR still is quite above average. It gets especially above average, well above average, as we head into the Caribbean region. And, of course, the Gulf of Mexico is just boiling right now. The East Coast, even, is quite warm as well. And you can see the northwestern parts of the Caribbean to the Straits of Florida around the Bahamas. It's the warmest, where temperatures are around 30 to 32 degrees Celsius, really, and that's getting into the low 90-degree Fahrenheit range. So that's ample energy for tropical systems to feed off of to get stronger. But even if tropical systems end up going up the East Coast, let's say, they'll still have a lot of warm sea surface temperatures to feed off of to get stronger. And even once they get towards off of like the northeast New England coast or getting towards off the coast here, the temperatures, of course, are not as nearly as warm, but the temperatures here are around 20 to 26, 27 degrees Celsius. And so that's still pretty decently warm enough for, at least once they cross here, that they cross the Gulf Stream into these much cooler waters, decently cooler waters, that they'll maybe weaken a bit, or they could really maintain their strength. Of course, that it all depends really on how fast its forward speed is and all of that. But we've already seen Tropical Storm Faye. We've already seen one tropical system impact the Northeast and New England already this year, which was the first time in like 8 years that the New England has seen a direct impact from a tropical system. So that was pretty huge. But who knows if we'll see any more of that kind of tropical systems impacting New England or that area at all the rest of the year. I mean, of course, the chances are a lot higher than typical for that region. Of course, it's a lot higher. The chances for a landfall along the Gulf Coast, up the East Coast of the United States is all well above average for all of these areas for a landfall in a tropical system, no matter if it's a tropical storm to even a Category 5. I think we'll start to see this really the tropical activity really start to pick up a good bit more once we get into August. Once we really get into August, that's probably, we're going to still have to wait till we get into August to see tropical activity really ramp up. This is a 7-day change of the sea surface temperature anomalies for, really, we'll look at the ENSO region. And you can see it's like mixed between below average and above average sea surface temperatures. So that just indicates that it's really more neutral than anything else. But really, it's generally more leaning towards La Nina, since its majority of the change is below average. So that's something that we'll really have to watch. The GFS 12Z model run is just coming in, so we'll use the 6Z run from earlier this morning. We'll look at the general North Atlantic region for. We'll look at the precipitation for the North Atlantic, and then we'll look at the vorticity after that, and then I guess we'll compare it to what the GFS is showing currently to what the CMC and Euro are showing. So as we move this farther out into time, and of what the GFS is showing going into this upcoming week, you can see there's a lot of precipitation going into next week, it seems, for getting to the Gulf and Caribbean, around, especially like all of Cuba will really be experiencing some rain, most likely getting in towards next Thursday, it seems. And, that's typical. It's all pretty typical. But we don't really see any kind of good, sustainable, like, tropical any tropical systems, tropical waves that would potentially become tropical systems, or anything around the United States of precipitation coming off the East Coast or something. Sorry about that. That we'd see it become a tropical system, anything become a tropical system. Now, we do see this continued surge of tropical waves coming off of Africa into the MDR region, but none of them really are able to form into anything, and that's honestly kind of typical for this time of year. We'll really have to wait till we get towards probably really once we get into August, most likely. I'll show you guys what the GFS is showing for vorticity for the Atlantic in general. And you can see the vorticity for the whole Atlantic. Nothing is really popping out that much at all for anywhere really trying to become anything trying to become tropical or any kind of tropical systems really. You can see it's all general kind of spin in the atmosphere. There are like some maybe larger kind of systems coming through like the United States, the Midwest and New England, then up into the very North Atlantic, but I mean, of course, that's not going to be anything tropical, so it doesn't really matter. So yeah, that's what the GFS is showing. I'll show you what the CMC is showing. We'll first look at the MSLP and precip for what the CMC is showing. And you can see the CMC really is not showing anything at all either, just like the GFS. A lot of us, I mean, the GFS doesn't show it to much of it to anything of the degree the CMC is showing, but like this area of low pressure is kind of area that I think a lot of us have kind of start to look at a little bit, but it doesn't look like it will really become anything. I mean, of course, this is, I don't know, that area really doesn't seem to, that area doesn't seem to form until Monday. This upcoming Monday, but I mean, I doubt, honestly, that the NHC will really monitor this at all to see if this would become anything tropical. And so, really, again, we're going to have to most likely wait till we get into August. I was thinking that we could see up to 4 named storms for the whole month of July, but it looks like we'll only see the 2 we've already seen, Edward and Faye. And then I was like, okay, maybe, I mean, it looks like we're getting to a little bit more unfavorable pattern for the rest of July, but maybe there'll be a little bit of time that somehow gets a bit more favorable for a real quick period of time that we could see Gonzalo form and then towards the end of July. But it doesn't look like that'll happen, really, so we'll probably have to wait till August to see any more tropical systems really start to form and be named. So, you know, yes, maybe... any way you look at it, like whoever, if you look at August, like whoever you are and you're trying to figure out like what to expect for August, I mean, it really depends on who you are and like trying to figure out if it's going to see a lot of named storms in August or not. I mean, I think we'll see a lot of named storms in August. I originally thought we'd between August 1st and September 30th, we'd see an additional 14 named storms. And probably roughly around like 7 named storms each month, which like kind of split up half. But you know, I don't know. We'll see. Not exactly anything. I mean, you know, the CMC for the vorticity for that system that would like potentially starting to form on Monday kind of shows kind of a little small tide vorticity. So I don't know. I mean, maybe we could watch that, but not really. I mean, otherwise it's honestly pretty quiet. And really we won't have to worry about much of anything at all. And then I'll show you what the European model is showing real quick. This is just to see how the Euro is handling things. New forecast loop. And bring this farther out. It's not really showing much of anything, once again, for anything like kind of potentially like major we would have to watch for anything tropical to form, kind of. And of course I use major at this point very loosely, as we probably all should be, since nothing around through this time would really get all that strong anyway. But you know, it's nothing surprising whatsoever. So, you know, the European, just like the CMC and GFS, are all agreeing that this isn't going to become, that anything is really going to form. And, of course, we've already seen, so far, the hurricane season thus far, 6 named storms. We've seen a total of 12 fatalities already. We saw, I'll just scroll down real quick to show you guys. We saw 1 fatality associated with Bertha, 5 fatalities associated with Cristobal, and then 6 fatalities associated with Faye. The total damage so far this season is already above $1 billion in damage. It's to kind of be exact, it's at somewhere a little above $1.275 billion in damage. And to look at the storms that caused all the damage to that total thus far, Bertha caused somewhere a little above $200 million in damage. Cristobal caused $675 million in damage, which actually they increased the total damage for Cristobal. Actually, let's zoom that in so you guys can see that a bit more. They increased the total damage for Cristobal just recently, so I mean, I guess that makes sense just because they probably found a lot more like flooding damage in the Central America area that Cristobal affected, and maybe even like around the New Orleans, Louisiana area, Mississippi areas, maybe some more damage. And then Faye caused $400 million in damage, especially for the Mid-Atlantic and New England coasts, particularly for Delaware, New Jersey, and coastal New York. That was a majority of the damage caused. It killed a total of 6 people. Killed a total of 6 people. 6 people drowned due to rip currents and storm surge, and that was most likely people that lived along the Jersey coast or coastal Long Island and the Atlantic side, or even maybe coastal Delaware as well. So, that's, I mean, so far this season, it's, just, by going by the names, how many named storms we've seen thus far this season, we could definitely say that we're off to a pretty active start. A lot of us, probably a few of us would say that we're off to kind of like a record pace start, but it's not really. All the storms have been very short-lived and very weak, so it's. I mean, if you really look at it, kind of scientifically or something, it's nothing. It's not exactly that. Yeah, what's the word? That interesting or anything really at all. We haven't even had our first hurricane of the season yet. Of course, we don't expect our first hurricane until I think early to mid-August or something. And then our first major hurricane we don't averagely expect until the beginning of September. We'll see how that goes, but I mean, I don't know. We'll have to see. But otherwise, yeah, that's really kind of the update I wanted to give to you guys. I think really again, since we're really expecting really nothing tropical in any way to really form at all soon. I would say our next chance of tropical systems will really really be once we enter August, very beginning of August. I think our first hurricane could be somewhere around August 10th. So, we'll see how that goes. I still am expecting August and September, and those are the 2 peak months. I think this year, those 2 months will be have an extreme amount of tropical activity going on still. So we'll still see a very active amount of named systems. Still be prepared for a lot of trouble ahead. Especially most likely during the peak, especially if you live along the Gulf Coast, Florida, up toward probably South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, especially if you live in those areas. Really just be prepared. And, even for the Mid-Atlantic, Northeast New England states, also please don't let your guard down at all because, of course, the East Coast thus far has been the most active so far, and of course, I have no idea if it will really stay that way or not, but I mean, it still could. So, anyone who lives anywhere along the East Coast should keep their guard up and keep their eyes out. So, again, our next chances of tropical systems to really happen will most likely not be until we enter August. So. Still got a couple weeks to go before we can really be excited about any more tropical activity, which is kind of a bummer, but, it's kind of expected to have these lulls in between sometimes during the hurricane season. But yeah, that's really it for today's video, guys. I really hope you enjoyed. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.